Good afternoon, all. CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Tuesday afternoon, February 2nd. We're looking at the SPY ETF's market profile here on Window Trader. And I had a good day, but I'm pretty pissed off at myself because I couldn't have called this market any better. We'll go over that in a minute. Amazon and Google earnings out right after the bell. We'll get to this flush in a minute. One thing to note, we have another bad tick in SPY. Look at this. The low in SPY today is 379.60, not 376 and change. We still held the gap. It distorts everything. The charts. Look at where my half back got pulled to. But we'll get to all that in a moment. Let's go first to the Russell. So the Russell gapped higher, drove straight down, and spent 3 time frames trying to get into their price probe from yesterday. But their price probe held like a champ, and then they actually went up and then traded 10 wide. They even went out with another price probe. So even though they closed below it, until a period tomorrow, we don't know if that price probe is accepted or rejected in IWM. So pretty impressive day after they gave everything up. And I mean, they drove straight down $2. Triple Qs, they also gapped higher. They held their gap like we did. They had a chance for a trend day a bunch of times. They had at least 3 attempts, failed all of them, and then they gave it up late in the day. But look at this. When they sold off and now Google and Amazon earnings come out and they reverse and they're right back up to the day's high. So let's get to us, what transpired here and everything else. We gap higher, basically have an open and drive. We never see the open again. We hold the gap. The gap is over 200 ticks, so pretty damn good gap. But then once the initial balance formed, every time we tried to get above B's high, we didn't get anything really for it. As we went 11 wide, we do have a trend day. We do, even though they got almost taken back in M. In fact, end period filled probably the ESs, but I'm going to say I held mine. Not a lot of them, but I held them. B is the lowest accepted price. We have a nice buy tail and a large gap. Incredibly, we couldn't fill the gap from the 26th. We missed it by 34 cents. That was a large gap when it first happened. Amazing we didn't get it. I was all ready to take a nice size short if we did, especially after all the trouble they had throughout the afternoon. So why am I upset before I get to my trades? Because we spent 4 hours here, and I couldn't be more explicit to the room, saying if these buyers do not get what they want, when H came down, I had a short here. H came down, I said, and then that's all it did. I said, that is not enough to alleviate all the longs who are piling in. I said, so if they don't get a better flush in I or J, L and M are going to rectify it. Everybody, and I guarantee you everybody, was looking for this market to pop the top and finally fill this gap. And I told the room, you are not going to see that in L and M, because they just we didn't alleviate the pressure. And if you did see it, man, I would have been ready to short it. So let's get to my trades. I did have a short now, but not a big one, and certainly didn't take a better one in M period when we had the chance. So first trade, I put myself in a hole early. I thought we would front run the overnight high. I took the 381 puts, only a 10 lot. Well, it ripped above, but we couldn't get to the top of the 4-day balance. So I got pretty fortunate. I get D and K's high. I went to the 382 puts and bought 50 of them. And as soon as I did that, A stalled out and pulled back. And I went from a loss to break even. Technically, I made $11. So believe it or not, I took a short here on a 10 lot. I was out probably $300-400. But when I took that other big trade and it came in, I got it all back and made pennies on it. Then I took a long in B. I was looking for us to finally break above the 4-day balance. We did it. It was the 380 calls. Plus, we had a lowest accepted price. I'm like, as long as we hold B's low, I'm comfortable. Now, when B did shoot up after that and I got out of my long, I said, I think we're getting a little bit too stretched out. I took a small 383 put. Never really came back in where I was. I took it off for a loss. Okay. C period. C came in. We had single prints. I'm like, I'm comfortable. Took a long. 381 calls. I said, I'll take it back out. off back at C's high. I did that. That worked out. I didn't really do much after that. I took a long in G. When we came down and couldn't take out, we had the weak low and went back up. I took the long, rode it back up. That worked. Now here's why I thought the market started getting too long. We raised POC. I'm like, I'm looking for a flush to alleviate some weak longs and get long somewhere around D's low, C's low at the time. Took the short before H even took out G's low. I got something for it. I bought 40 puts, made some money on it, came back up. Finally took the last 10 or 15 off for pennies because we didn't get what I wanted. So I did nothing in H, I, J, K. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Are they going to pop this? Pop it, fill the gap. If they get nothing for it, I'm going to take a size put because I think that's all they want to do. If they get another set of single prints, well, then I'll look for a long. Didn't do it. So finally, I took a short L. I'm like, this market's getting too long. We're not getting much. Finally came down. M started, went back up a little bit, came down, and then it finally paid me a little bit. But again, I only had 10. And then when M went back up, it took out H's low, went back up a bit. I should have jumped on because, again, I was like, we have not shaken out these longs yet. And look what happened in the last 5 minutes of the trading day. Boom, boom. Now, why is my room great? Because of the people we have in it. I didn't realize this sometimes, but the way this is the 6th day in a row M period has flushed out. 6 days in a row. That's pretty interesting. So that's something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying that's a trend that I'm going to be looking for all the time, but that is pretty interesting. And that's why a lot of times M is very unpredictable, and it doesn't paint the picture of what the market really did all day. So now everybody's going to say, oh, wow, we sold off pretty hard. All it was the weak longs getting out and some shorts piling in. We held the singles barely, and we held the lowest accepted price, but we have a nice buy tail, we have a gap below, and we're 11 wide up here. So I don't expect this market to fall apart. The question is, are we going to go get this gap tomorrow that they couldn't get? Remains to be seen. All right. Destinations for tomorrow. Upside. We end 11 wide at 382.54. K's low. Then we have today's high of 383.22, and then filling the gap at 383.54. It's down to a 32-point gap. We actually have the price probe that SPY had, not ES, 383.56. So if the gap gets filled, that's gone. And then we only have two destinations above there. 384.53, which is 10 wide from the 26, and 385.85, which is a monthly high and all-time high. For the downside, excuse me, we have the single prints. Now, M looked like it has a low of 381.38, but they had us close initially at 381.25. So I'm going to use 381.38 as M's low. So if that's the low, the single print start at 381.37 and get filled at 21. So they're about 16 cents. Then we have the lowest accepted price, B's low, which is 380.87. What is the lowest accepted price? It's when A closes. Here's A's close. That line. Here's B's opening. That line. On a strong market, right? B opened, never got below where A closed and drove up. We never saw it again. That's powerful. So I told the room, when it first drove up, I'm like, well, now I'm going to keep an eye on it. If we come back through it, then it's nothing. But if we hold it, any pullback, I want to get long against B's low. And it worked like a charm. That's what I call lowest accepted price. It's my term, my definition, nothing by the book, but it works. And then below that, we have today's low of 379.60 and filling the gap at 377.34. So let's go to the charts. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's my 30-minute. Here we go. So monthly, healthy. One time framing up. I'm not going to count this month yet, so I'll just say 3 months out of an inside month. As the week goes along, at the end of the week, I would call it one time framing up 4 months until that changes. Weekly, balance. So far, that outside week down, failed. It's one of the worst failures of an outside week down I think I've ever seen. If we thought the outside week up was poor 4 weeks ago, well, this outside week down is miserably failing. Now, I know there's 3 days left, but right now we're firmly back inside last week's range, and we're closer to the all-time high than last week's low. So it remains to be seen if the sellers ever show up again. And the daily, I'm calling it up. Came out of a 4-day balance to the upside. We closed inside this 4-day balance, but I'm going to give the bulls kudos today and call it up on the day. Gap's my main focus. We'll see if we can take out today's high. If we take out today's low, then we'll be back to balance. But for now, I will call the daily up. I hope you had a great day trading. Enjoy the evening, and we'll speak prior to the opening